Hey everybody and welcome. First and foremost, thanks for tuning in. I think that the most important thing I just want to share with my community, current, future, is that with the coronavirus COVID-19 out there, I want everybody to stay safe and stay healthy. Obviously wash your hands, hydrate, and I have pre-existing conditions and a touchy immune system, and so I have, as of March 16th, 2020, kind of self-quarantining here. I had surgical stuff that I was supposed to go to the hospital for Wednesday that I have postponed, and there's a lot of people out there gonna have a lot of postponing in their medical management, treatment, diagnoses. And for that, I want all of those people to please stay strong. I understand how difficult it is to have pre-existing conditions and the fear of what the news and the media and our social media applications are telling us. It's very difficult to determine fact from fiction, and I kind of think we all have to take it one day at a time. So please stay hydrated, and on that note, let's get into this video. So this video is a difficult one, like, where do I start? What do I include? Which order do I go about it? And since it is complicated, I have notes. Of course I have notes. But I think the first thing we need to do is start off with explaining briefly what parent alienation syndrome is. And if you relate to anything in this video, I will put the link to this workbook in the description, and I strongly encourage anybody who may be experiencing anything that sounds familiar to this video, or you question whether or not you could be being alienated, or even if you are an alienator. Maybe this video will help both sides of this topic. This particular workbook is written by Jill Aguizzi with Judge Michelle Lawrence, who has resided on many cases involving family and probate court. She's seen it from the front lines, and she was able to help co-author this amazing, helpful, very informative resource. So let's start there. If you are experiencing parent alienation and parent alienation syndrome, the best thing that can happen is that you are able to reconnect with your children or child. The worst thing that can happen is that you never try. And that's the first step that inspired me to go forth on this topic, which is difficult for me. These experiences are difficult for me, but knowing that I have been through it and am living in it, I would hope would allow you to be able to enable relation. Parent alienation can happen from one parent to another, or any family member towards one or both parents. It is essentially a declaration of war against the targeted parent, me, that has a radioactive fallout that lasts for generations. Rather than get into my work I've done in my workbook, which is pretty personal and probably unique to my situation, I think that we're just going to put this on the side, refer to it as needed, and I think according to my notes, we are going to start off with my adopted parents. So, Robert Mike Powers and Marcia Ann Powers took me into DCF foster placement right before my 6th birthday, and they had real estate dealings with my social worker. So right off the bat, there is a conflict of interest. Now, of course, these are things I learned later down the road, and being a child, a foster child, I will tell you that even when you talk to people about issues, often, as long as the adults are lying, no one's listening. And I know that that is something that many of you foster children or adopted children even adopted now that you're an adult, something that you may struggle with or even be able to relate to. I've gotten emails and messages, and I know that's a tough topic. It's tough for me. I think not having a voice from the beginning and knowing that your birth parents found you disposable, and the horrific things that have been done to me, has always sort of made me feel a sense of abandonment, and in turn that's given me this over loyal personality. I want to please, I want to be part of something, I want to be loved, and I've really realized that throughout my years I've been so desperate for that connection that I've often sacrificed my own well-being and my own integrity, my own morals, my own values, ethics, and that's something that I'm a work in progress and I'm working on. And of course, when you're conditioned and you're groomed and you're in a habit of people telling you that you're not good enough, you really have to fight to continue that work in progress to be able to understand that you are good enough. Like, I'm working on trying to learn and teach myself, reparent myself, that I am good enough and that there are good qualities about me and that I don't have to be perfect. I've never asked for perfection from any of the people that you've heard me talk about in any of my videos, and I wouldn't do that because that's inhumane, that's unrealistic, and narcissistic. And so I've always worked on trying to be the kind of person I want to be, not the kind of person other people have wanted me to be. And I think that that can be a point of contention when it comes to people not seeing you break and bow down to them when they try to reign power over you, power trips, control you, use your most precious and loved asset, your child or children, against you because they couldn't get to you. So what's the one thing that they can use to get to you? If you're a loving parent, what is the one thing that anybody in the world can use against you? Your children. So I grew up in an unsafe and unpredictable environment. I had my adopted father shot at me with a 9mm gun. Go check out my channel. I'll try to link it at the end. You know, I have had naked pictures taken of me from year 5 to almost 12. I think it could have even been 13, the last one that I had found in their attic. I was constantly being asked to turn around, and my adopted father would call me sexy. He would ask me to bend over. He would take pictures of me in the shower, in the bathtub, in my towels. He would call me sexy in front of my friends, which began becoming very awkward because they were uncomfortable with it. He would call my friends sexy too, so people didn't really want to continue coming and staying over my house. And I started to get a reputation in schools for her dad's a weirdo. Like, something's going on there. It was very hard because I had already had a difficult social start because I had so much trauma and so much abuse that I had already undergone before the age of 4, that anything past that compiled or piled on top of that became complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so when I was younger, there were things that obviously trauma does to a person, and I would have outbursts. I would cry, I would be angry, I would write on the walls, I popped my waterbed one time. Anytime I would do anything wrong up to the age of that I was 14, I started dating around 14, my adopted father, Mike, who weighed 300 plus pounds, would sit on top of me until I could not breathe and I could not move, and that is how they dealt with taking in an extremely traumatized child. Once I became of the age of dating, some of my boyfriends started commenting on how strange and bizarre my parents were towards me, or my mom towards my boyfriends. She would walk around naked. My father walked around naked. He still walks around naked. I'm sure he's walked around naked in front of my daughter. I know so. She's told me so. I've been there when he's done so. And my mom would take naked pictures of herself and leave them in places for my boyfriends. She tried sleeping with several of my boyfriends, and that ended several of my relationships because I don't want a man around in my life that I know my mom is trying to have sex with. And very fucked up. I know that they're swingers. They have a board game in their attic. And so I know that my dad's cheated on my mom when he's taken trips to China and other countries. They actually almost got divorced over it. But my dad can't do anything without my mom. And so when anything out of Brookside happens, it is a joint decision. They both know about it. There are no secrets. And so that, with what I'm going to share with you, makes the situation even more disgusting. That you have two adults and together neither of them have a moral compass or have morals, ethics, or values. And if they did, this whole entire video series probably wouldn't exist, or certainly wouldn't be as long. They are abusive, narcissistic souls who I believe have sold their soul for monetary and personal gain. You revolve around them. You live in their world. You think what they think, you feel what they feel, you would make choices that they would make, and if any of that isn't true, then you become the target of their anger, their rage, and their access to money to come against you from a higher monetary position. Like giving your daughter $300 a week at age 12 years old when she had no reason to have that kind of access to that kind of money. She certainly wasn't going to be getting it from me. At my house, you had to do chores to have an allowance. You were expected to help around the house. There was a curfew. There were dating expectations. My 12, 13, 14-year-old was not going to be dating 18, 19, 21-year-olds. No. And you were going to get good grades. And you were going to go to therapy because your mom and dad have gone through a divorce. A messy divorce. Well, my parents started to tell my daughter, well, at my house, you can drive the car around at 12. Like, we'll go to sleep and you can drive down against the judge's order and you can go see your dad. But don't tell your mom because you know she'll be mad. And she'll tell the judge, oh, here's $300 a week. Go spend it. We'll take you to the mall. Go hang out with your friends. Go buy new boots. Go buy new clothes. Go buy drugs, which is actually what happened. Don't worry about a curfew. Oh, and all of your boyfriends and all of your friends can live upstairs above in the garage, and you can live up there too, so we don't have to monitor you and we don't have to worry about you. But we want the money that the state gives us for taking you in as a foster child. We'll get into that. So there was a judge's order in which is in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's public record, in which my husband, ex-husband, who is the father of my daughter, so Johnny, kept going against what the judge would ask him to do, whether it be not pay child support, whether it be lie in court, whether pawn my daughter off on his family so he could go play cards during his weekends, having her drive around, being picked up from house to house by a sex offender. It's all on record. And one day in court, Johnny's like, I don't want nothing to do with my daughter. And the judge, Judge Wilson, adamantly asked him to reconsider that. He's like, I don't know, maybe just telephone contact. And so the judge is like, are you sure you want to do that? And he's like, yeah, I want to do that. I don't want to fight for my daughter. I just want to be able to move on and not have to keep coming to court. Mind fucking blown. Everybody in that courtroom looked at him and just summed it up like it were, what a fucking scumbag. And that the judge adamantly asked him not to make that decision is exactly how it's worded in the court record. Disgusting. So it was now my job to monitor all activity and communication between my daughter and her father. That was a judge's order. And if I did not do that, DCF, Department of Child and Family Services, would get involved and my daughter would likely be placed in foster care. So I took that seriously. Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. Absolutely. Well, when I would allow my daughter to go have time with her grandparents, my parents, Mike and Marsh Powers, I didn't know that they were allowing her to have access, whether it be they were taking her over there or they were letting her drive a car before she even had a permit to go see him. And he worked night shift at Dunkin' Donuts. She would be down there at 2 a.m. People would say this and I would think it were crazy. And then I did some research and I found out it were true. So then I had to go back to Judge Wilson and say, listen, I need you to hear what's going on with my parents, and I believe that there should be another motion added to the judgment that would allow me to pick and choose when she has contact, because they are doing these things. They're going to her school, giving her hundreds of dollars. There is no curfew when she's with them. They're not keeping her safe. They are letting her see and date and hang out with whoever she wants. They're letting her do drugs at their house. All of this stuff concerns me. And if you didn't want my daughter around her father without me knowing, then you have to understand why I'm concerned that they don't care about your judgment, that what you put down on paper, my parents say fuck you about. And the judge was like, absolutely, Fane. Absolutely. So the judgment was then extended that my parents were to have no visitation or contact with my daughter without my knowledge. And that included them sneaking into her school or meeting her on landscaping jobs. She went to a tech school against my knowledge. So guess what happened? If they didn't respect the judge's judgment the first time when it came to my husband, I assure you they did not respect Judge Wilson's judgment the second time when it applied to them. They were like, oh no, fuck you, you're not taking my granddaughter from me. Oh no, They both together weren't capable of doing the adult thing, which was to follow the judgment, which was only put in place for 6 months until things settled down or there became a proper, healthy environment for my daughter to see her grandparents and her father in. Now, when DCF got involved, because my parents blew up, they did not get her for Christmas of 2013, and they blew a fucking gasket. They blew a fucking engine. They blew a radiator, an alternator, and a transmission. They fucking lost their fucking minds. And they decided they were gonna put a TAC Fane plan into fucking place, and the only way they could get at me, because at this point, I didn't care about them. I didn't care to have to put effort and energy into a relationship with people who don't give a fuck about me, don't respect me, have told my daughter not to respect me, have told my daughter to lie to me, have taken my daughter in places in which a judge has asked her not to be. I just wanted to concentrate on being a single mom and being a better mom. Can't even tell you how frustrating and disappointing it is that people who choose to adopt you actually did it so you can be their paycheck, their maid, and their baby maker. Because as soon as I had my daughter, I was nothing. They treated my daughter from the beginning like it was their daughter. And I should have known. But I just figured they didn't have an infant. They got me when I was turning 6. So them acting like they know better, they're better, they can do better. I just figured that was them trying to make up for lost time, because when, like, time they didn't have, because when they were taking naked pictures of me and calling me sexy and watching me shower and stuff like that, they would tell me they were doing it because they didn't have the opportunity. They didn't get me when I was young enough to have those cutesy pictures. So it's like I should have seen it. If I hadn't just been so loyal, if I hadn't just been wanting a family so bad, if I wasn't so accepting of their disrespect, their disloyalty and their narcissism, this entire video would not exist. So I do take some responsibility that I didn't make better choices. I didn't move out of the area when they started losing their mind and alienating me from my daughter. I'll have to live with that forever.